and this voice was talking to me through all these electronics, and I lost my mind. Like, I called the cops. I thought it was real. And the cops came through and they were like, we don't hear anything, sir. They walked through the house. I'm like, it's coming from right there. You didn't just hear him? And they're like, no, we have to ask, are you on any drugs? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not on drugs. Well, if you had anything to drink, I'm like, 5 days ago.
Holics.com, in partnership with Heart Support and the Global Recovery Initiatives Foundation, is proud to present High Notes, a podcast about addiction and recovery in the music business. I'm your host, James Shotwell. My guest this episode is Craig Mabbitt. Craig is the lead singer for American rock band Escape the Fate, whose new album, Chemical Warfare, is set for release in February 2021. Craig was also a founding member of the bands Bless the Fall and The Word Alive. Craig is something of a unique situation for High Notes. His sobriety began in April 2020, roughly 1 month after the coronavirus pandemic led to the shutdown of virtually everything. Surrounded by friends and family, Craig was no longer able to tour and live the rock star life that he had become accustomed to, and that gave him a chance to reflect, a chance to reset his life. And in this discussion, we talk about how he came to the conclusion that it was time to change his ways, as well as what his experience has been like trying to navigate sobriety in a world of isolation. And when we connect over the phone, the first thing I want to know is how long he's been sober.
You know what? Let me check. Not long, but long enough. 205 days today. So in my first year.
Throughout my 13-year career as a music journalist, I've had several opportunities to interview Craig with his various projects. One night in particular, February 28, 2009, stands out. Craig was on his first headlining tour with Escape the Fate, and they were performing a sold-out show at the Crowfoot Ballroom in Pontiac, Michigan. At the beginning of the night, just as the openers and Attack were taking the stage, I sat down with Craig and other members of the band in the basement of the venue. We could hear the group performing above us and the crowd's response, but it was very muffled. As soon as I sat down, Craig looked at me across the table and suggested that we do a shot-for-shot interview, meaning that every time I asked a question, I had to take a shot of whiskey, and every time he answered a question, he would take a shot of whiskey. It was a disastrous idea that resulted in a disastrous interview, but we had a good time, and in hindsight, it was pretty self-destructive. Later that evening, when Escape the Fate did take the stage, Craig ended up throwing up mid-performance, and he immediately stage dove into the crowd. It was one of those nights I never thought would happen as a young journalist, and it's something that I've carried with me my entire career. Knowing that Craig has always been associated with the wild rock star lifestyle, I didn't know if he would remember it, but I had to bring it up.
That sounds about right.
For those unfamiliar with Escape the Fate's history, Craig is their second vocalist, and he came on after the release of the group's very popular debut album. When that happened, the band shifted their sound and branding in such a way that it made them almost seem like the new Motley Crue. They were these bad boys of rock and roll who weren't afraid to add a breakdown to their songs, who promoted this lifestyle of leather and partying and drinking and doing whatever it is that you wanted to do. And that's something that has always sold. That is marketing 101. People want to be around that. But as anyone who has ever attempted to live and embody that lifestyle will tell you, it can't last forever.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I had my issues before I had joined Escape the Fate. And then, you have that added image that you just mentioned of this band I was stepping into and these shoes I had to fill, and it was kind of just like fuel to the fire that was already burning too hot. You know what I mean? It's like throwing the gas can into the flames, pretty much. Oh, I mean, the craziest part about that story is it sounds about right, but then you got to the section of it where you're like, and then you had to play. I'm like, oh my God, this happened before.
Yeah, this was a pre-show interview.
Like a pre-show interview, and that sounds about right. And it's like, I've met plenty of other people, plenty of other addicts, obviously on the road, and it's people that go that nuts. You either hear one of two things: they're either still going that nuts, they're not with us anymore, or they're in recovery. Very, very happy that I'm the latter at this point in my life.
I didn't think Craig's behavior happened out of nowhere. He and I are pretty much the same age, and we were both born in 1987. We grew up on MTV. We grew up seeing this unrealistic lifestyle sold to us as if it was something anyone could attain. So when someone in Craig's position found themselves with a little bit of success, of course they would go after something as self-destructive as what they saw growing up.
You get it, because we're exactly the same age. Like I grew up watching that stuff and looking up to bands like Motley Crue, and American Pie was like showing you what it meant to be like a
Yeah.
cool guy. And I was living the dream, I thought. And then, you have nights like that every night for 15 years straight, and it
Mhm.
just it catches up to you. Those fun nights turn into nights you don't even remember. You have to try to piece together a story here or a story there of what you think might have happened the night before, and it gets rough. You start realizing, you're like, wow, I'm around a lot of people right now that are like hanging out and talking to me. They don't even know. You start realizing you don't even know who you are, let alone the people around you. They don't know who you really are, because you're in this like stupor. You're on fucking Mars. You don't even know where you're at the time. Yeah, and you always gotta one up yourself, go harder the next time, and then stories start circulating. Oh, he's crazy, man. Oh, is he?
Mhm.
Let's see. And then you gotta prove him right or wrong or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it definitely becomes like an uncontrollable animal,
Something we've talked about in the past that really fits right here is how fans don't always grasp the reality of touring life. For you see your favorite band one night and you might have a great time and hope that next time the band comes through, it's even bigger and better than before. But for Craig, every night is that night. Every night he's in a new town, seeing fans who are looking forward to seeing him with hopes that it'll be bigger and better and wilder than it was the night before, and maintaining that momentum is incredibly hard and very self-destructive.
Yeah, now that I look back on interviews I've done over the years, I can't even remember the specific question, but that description that you just told me came out of my mouth so many times, where I'm like, well, it's like, for us, it's every single night, but for these people, it's like, oh, when are they coming into town again? Oh, they're coming in 2 months. And, you look forward to the night and you're going out, and then it's kind of like back to normal. But for me, it's like, shit, tomorrow's coming, or this day's coming. And you start remembering certain cities, or like I'll wake up and I'll be in a venue. I'm like, oh yeah, I partied with people here last time. I wonder if they're going to be here tonight. And then they're there that night, and you'd go ham again, and it's just rinse repeat.
Before we get too far into Craig's story, we need to go back to the beginning. As I mentioned earlier, he was in 2 bands before joining Escape the Fate, and we have to know, did his addiction troubles begin then, or does it predate his time in music?
It does. So I started just drinking. I think the first thing I did was I smoked weed. I had my first drink at 14. It was during a time I had ran away from home for the upteenth time from an abusive parent. Was staying at a friend's house, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was kind of like a drug house. Like, there was ex-convicts living there, people on probation there. His mom was involved in drugs, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's here just hanging out and partying, and it was an escape. And so I remember drinking a 40 of Mickey's, and I think I got a quarter of the way down the 40, and I fell asleep and woke up the next day. And then it was, the same thing the next night. Everybody's drinking again. And I remember the time I finished my first 40, and all these dudes in the house were like, there you go, dude. And I mean, it gets crazier the more I talk about it, because I'm like, these guys must have been my age I am now, like giving this 14-year-old dude a high five that he's finishing a 40. But that's what was going on. And those nights turned into barreling in the back of a pickup truck and rolling up to a Circle K and, all right, hop out, because they used to have the beers on display outside of the gas station. You jump out, you grab as many cases you could, jump back in the pickup truck and go and drink as much as you could until you pass out again. And this was before the band. So when the band started happening and the family drama got worse, and before I was 18, I had a kid on the way, and then I started leaving town to tour. It just got bad, and I found myself on tour overseas with Bless the Fall. And I mean, I hadn't been old enough to drink still to this point. I think I was only 18 at the time, and I was old enough to drink over there. So it was my first tour where people were like, dude, can I buy you a drink? I'm like, oh, I'm not old enough to drink. You are here. I'm like, oh shit. And that's the tour I left. That's when I quit Bless the Fall. Like I told myself back then, I had some sort of semblance of the good part of me going, this is not a road you want to go down. And so I quit. I was like, I got to get out of this industry. This isn't for me. And I went back home and really had a tough time figure out what am I going to do now. Now I have this kid here. I didn't finish high school. I left high school to go on tour and do music. Like, music is what I have to do. And then I found myself within 2 months joining this Las Vegas Bad Boys Escape the Fate band, and the rest is history, as they say, a blur. I'm lucky to be alive today, and have been successful, and I've been able to share my music with the world, and I'm forever grateful for all the positive aspects of it all. But there was just this underlying demon that I was wrestling with for many, many, many years, and I'll wrestle with it for the rest of my life. But that's the silver lining with this quarantine stuff going on in the world. An article came out, I think, last year, and it was the first summer I had off since I was 16 years old. Like, I had never had a summer off. And so this year was the year I had the most time off the road I had ever had. But this article came out saying that the band that had toured the most that year was Escape the Fate. And I'm like, so you're telling me I had the most time off last year, but yet we still topped the list of the most toured and traveled band of that year? I'm like, what if this list existed every year before that? So it's been crazy. It's been crazy. It's like, where's the time gone? We have, like, my drummer Robert. He's not a drinker by any means. He'll have like a beer and watch a football game every now and then. But even he's like, where did the years go? And for me, it's like, really, where the hell what happened? Where have we been?
If you're one of the lucky few who are able to make a living in music that lasts longer than a few years, you start to see something really incredible happen. All the people that you came up with, those young, rebellious folks who just wanted to live life to the fullest, they begin to settle down in ways that you may have never seen coming. All of a sudden, your conversations shift from asking people where the best bar is or where to get drugs to what kind of health insurance they have and how their families are doing and where they can get the best Thai food when they're on the West Coast. These are the conversations that I and Craig have with our friends in the music business these days. And while they may seem lame to some people, especially young fans who are looking for that rebellious energy, there's actually something pretty comforting about it.
Maybe it took me so long because there was a part of me saying that was lame, but I don't think it was a part of me saying that was lame. I think that part of me was the denial aspect of it. Was the refusing to admit, you're not a crazy 18-year-old kid anymore. You have a problem, dude. Like, you have a problem. You need to grow up. Like, it's finally time to grow up, or else you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt somebody else. It's just bad. You got to get out of it. And nobody can make that decision for you. And I feel like there's so much support out there once you finally decide to get the help, but you have to decide to do it. And that's the saddest part and the hardest part, because you see other people struggling. It's like, all you have to do is decide you want to quit. That's it. And it seems like such a simple decision. It seems like it was such a simple decision to me right now talking to you, but clearly it was not, because it took quite a while.
When we find ourselves at a crossroad in life, sometimes our ego gets in the way. Maybe we tell ourselves that our peer group will no longer accept us if we change, or maybe we fear that they will take it as a criticism about them because we are choosing to do something different, when in reality, every individual's journey is their own. It's not about what someone else is doing, it's about what's best for you. A simple example of this happened in my own life. When I was quitting drinking, I would ask bartenders to put my Coca-Cola in the same cup that they used for mixed drinks. That way my friends would assume I was drinking a Jack and Coke and not just regular soda. But then one day my partner told me I didn't have to keep up that lie. I could just be myself. There was no reason to hide what I was doing. It wasn't wrong to stop drinking.
Yeah, dude, I used to do the same thing. And that's another hard part about it is, a lot of my friends, like personal friends, when I'm off the road, I remember being out with them over the years, and they would always say, another one bites the dust. Like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, he got sober. I was like, oh, I guess we're not going to see him anymore. And that's not the case. It's not that you're not going to see them anymore. Life can just be so much better. It doesn't always have to be, we going out tonight? And where are you going? Some dive bar to stare at each other for 20 minutes while you you shove shots down your throat and then you don't even remember the fun you had anyways. And was it fun? Was it like, what did we even do? Did we just get sloppy and try to get home safe? Like, I don't know, man. Rough.
As you can tell from listening to Craig's story, he was thinking about sobriety long before he made the decision to change. And I wanted to know, in the days and weeks leading up to April 8th, 2020, his recovery date, what changed in his life? What pushed him to finally do the thing he'd been trying to avoid?
So it was the culmination of a lot of days like that. Waking up, praying to the porcelain god, begging, I never want to feel like this ever again. Why do I do this? The mental aspect of it, because I've struggled with mental health on top of all my other issues for so long, and the mental aspect of those withdrawals were just getting crazy. I mean, it still gets crazy. Like, I feel like people are after me, peering into my windows, like it's gonna uncover something that I don't even know is being hidden. I don't know. It's just like weird overall feeling of impending doom. And I get on these Zoom AA calls and I hear other alcoholics, they deal with those same feelings. So it helps me to feel like I'm not alone. But what finally did it was I didn't wake up after drinking on a Sunday, on a Monday, feeling that way. I woke up on a Thursday and an entire week had passed. And I had thought I had passed out, woke up, and like I was walking to the bar because there's a bar walking distance from me. And I'd gone in there so many times that they'd see me walk through the door and make my drink and hand it to me as soon as I sat down. I thought it was the coolest thing. Like, oh, I'm a regular here. This is sick. And I thought I had done that all within a day. And then my fiance was like, no, you had drinks here, and you would kind of wake up and go to the fridge, and it was just like Adam Sandler and Click, like autopilot, but instead of a remote it was drinks. So I was like, oh my god, where did that week go? And I told myself, like, I have to stop this cold turkey. And this is something I had told myself many times over the years. Like, I've done, oh, I'm not going to drink this week, or you know what, I'm not going to drink this tour. And I would do the whole go to the bar and order a soda water with a lime, and people think I'm drinking a vodka tonic or whatever. And I thought I was strong enough that I could handle it, and I'm not. So I tried quitting cold turkey, and the anxiety was so bad I couldn't sleep that night. Stayed up the whole next day, couldn't sleep the next night. Stayed up the whole day the next day, couldn't sleep the next night. And I was on day 5 of not sleeping, and I was just starting out on Twitch at this time. I started hearing fucking voices coming out of my PlayStation. Like, I swear to God, I was hearing it. And like, my fiance is obsessed with Dateline, and you hear stories of people, oh, the voices were telling me. I'm like, these people are nuts. I heard it, and it was the weirdest thing in my life. I stopped my stream, then I started hearing them come out of like my cable box. I started hearing them come out of my television. I thought like my house was wiretapped. Like, all the electronics had somebody that was seeing me. Like, every light I saw from an electronic, I thought was a camera, and this voice was talking to me through all these electronics, and I lost my mind. Like, I called the cops. I thought it was real. And the cops came through, and they were like, we don't hear anything, sir. They walked through the house. I'm like, it's coming from right there. You didn't just hear him? And they're like, no, we have to ask, are you on any drugs? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I haven't. I'm not on drugs. Well, if you had anything to drink, I'm like, 5 days ago was my last drink. They're like, well, here's our number. Let us know if you're doing okay. Have a good night. And then I tried to sleep. I couldn't sleep that night. The next day, it was even crazier than that. And I called my manager, and I was like, dude, you got to come get me. I can't be by myself right now. Like, I need to go to like a facility or something. I thought I was losing my mind, like legitimately going crazy. And so he took me into this recovery facility, and I admitted myself. And my manager was telling me the whole time, he's like, dude, I thought you were the strongest person I'd ever met, because you were like openly admitting yourself to this place. He's like, but I was trying to talk to you. I guess I was like looking down in the corner, talking to whoever, like I was having voices in my head at that point. And then that night, it was going on a week of not sleeping, and I'm like pacing around this room that just had a bunch of dudes in these like 1960s lazy boy chairs, like trying to recover from drugs and stuff. And I'm just walking in a circle around this room, and these nurses came over, and they're like, do you need help sleeping? And I said, yeah, I haven't slept for a week. So they gave me a shot of something in my right arm, shot of something in my left arm, and I finally got some sleep. And when I woke up the next day, They called my name and said, "Okay, you're good to go now." And I was like, "No, I think maybe I should stay." They said, "No, you got to go." And that was April 8th. And I was like, I literally gonna go crazy if I continue down this path any further. Like, this is the brick wall. This is the rock bottom that I thought I've been at before, and I wasn't. There were so many low points in my life up to that that I thought was the lowest. And this was like, dude, you're literally going, you're gonna lose your mind. Like, you're gonna be a nutcase. Like, you're gonna be in a mental hospital if you continue down this path, or something else crazy is going to happen. So April 8th was my sober day. I started doing these AA Zoom calls, and there was no looking back at that point.
Craig is the first guest in our show who has primarily done his recovery through the internet. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, finding an AA meeting is very hard in the real world, but if you go online, there are countless groups of people in recovery trying to support each other through these crazy times. And I wanted to know if the distance created by the internet made it easier for him to open up.
It was something that I told myself, as uncomfortable as I felt trying to open up or admitting that I need help or sharing a story, or even right now, if I feel uncomfortable even sharing about these stories, because even talking about that aspect of my life, like, it's one of those, I wish I could just control alt delete all of it. Like, and just forget about it, and you can't. And so I just always tell myself, is this making you more uncomfortable than drinking was? And no, it's not. And is getting through this uncomfortable moment about being open and sharing and getting the help you need going to better you, or is it going to set you on a course to going back to that? And it's not going to set me back. So that's what motivates me to get through it.
A lot of the recovery journey is about honesty, being honest with yourself and being honest with others, which means that there's a lot of conversations that have to be had. Craig told us earlier about talking to his manager when he was starting to feel crazy, but I wanted to know, in a world where he had decided to get clean and he was really committing himself to the process, who was the first person that he spoke with at length about that decision, and how did the conversation go?
A couple times I had texted the rest of the guys in the band, just being like, you know what, maybe I'll just openly admit that I have a problem, which clearly they already know. Like, they're not idiots. They live with me. And it's like, dude, thank you so much for telling us. Like, we wish you the best. We fucking love you. We think that's great. And then they're seeing me black out on the tour bus, the very next tour. But everybody has their problems. I have some close friends here at home that I would open up to, like, shedding tears, and it's like, you want to get together and talk about it? And we'd get together at a bar to talk about it, and it just got to a point where it was like, I need to open myself up to meeting new people in any way, like whether it be Zoom or whatever, and really get the help that I need. So the one person that was for me that I knew was sober was John Feldman. I had called him, I guess that same day I called my manager, and he was like, you could call me anytime. Never call me when you're that fucked up ever again, but call me anytime. And if you're serious about getting help, please give me a call. And I gave him a call. He sent me my first Zoom link. And so those have been the meetings I've been doing. I met some other brothers in AA through that. One of them just moved from Texas and was driving through Arizona, stopped by my house. We met in person for the first time, took him out for steak. At least I thought I was taking him out. Then he covered the bill, and it was great. I'm meeting these new people that I can sit down, have a meal with, talk about real life stuff, and they're there for me. I wake up every morning now, and I'm in a group chat that's called the gratitude list group chat, and you wake up and you text everything that you're grateful for, and I've been honestly slacking on that. I need to start doing that some more. I've just been so busy with other things, but as long as I'm getting through the next 24 hours sober, that's what it's all about.
I love that Craig just mentioned falling short of something he wanted to do, the gratitude list, and how he recognized that it was possible to do better in the future. That's a big part of recovery because you're always going to fall short, but you have to understand that you can improve. You can do better in the future. Craig also revealed how he's found himself in a new circle of peers. Within the recovery community, there are musicians and other industry professionals who are supporting one another, who are forging a sense of togetherness to get through this journey. And that's given Craig a lot of hope and a lot of peace with the decisions that he's made.
Yeah, I think there is a big stigma when it comes to, especially being in the music world, of being somebody that doesn't do that. you know, especially when you find yourself involved with people that do that. You know, the hard partiers. You know, oh, if I decide I'm not going to do this anymore, am I going to be ousted? Like, is nobody going to want to hang out with me anymore? I just put all that aside. It's not good for me. I'm allergic to alcohol, obviously. It does not do well with me, so no thanks.
Yeah, based on how you described it, it sounds like you literally wrote it till the wheels
Pretty
fall off,
much. And if the
basically.
wheels were barely on the next day, I
Yeah.
thought the hair of the dog was the magic fix-it-all that'll make the wheels moving again. And yeah, it worked for a lot of years. Yeah, it would help me not feel like crap and I'd get through my show. And then as soon as the show was done, it was let's go, you know, to where I don't know. Oblivion, I guess.
Keeping busy is a very crucial part of recovery for many people. All of a sudden, they find themselves with time that they used to spend drinking or doing drugs, and they need to fill it with something that keeps their attention and keeps them away from the things they're trying to avoid. This is what works for Craig.
I'd say the number one newest hobby I have is Twitch, the streaming platform.
Yeah.
I know a lot of musicians have turned to that. So not only has that been a new hobby of mine, which is helping me out with my life not being able to tour anymore, but it's also helping me out in my life with my sobriety.
Mm.
You know, I get to come onto this community and talk to people in the chat and do what I would normally do anyways, which is play video games for hours a day when I'm not on tour.
Yes.
But now I get to hang out and communicate with people, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, I started this. I feel like such an old dude because I never had a PC before I started streaming, but
Mhm.
Discord, and there's all these channels in there. Like we have a mental health and awareness channel, and everybody that joins the channel can go in there and talk to each other and help each other. And it's just, I don't know. It's like it's just positive, man. Like I just want to drink all the positivity now. It's what I want to get drunk off of. I want to get drunk off of positivity these days. So that has been a major, major thing in my life that I really, really enjoy. And yeah, the fitness thing, like I trying different diets just to follow something, like follow a program, you know, following the AA program, following a diet program, going to the gym, streaming, watching absolutely everything that Netflix has to offer. And then you know you find yourself with a Netflix, a Hulu, a Disney Plus, an Amazon Prime, an HBO Max account because you're like, what else am I gonna watch?
We're big believers in having a mantra here at High Notes. We feel that if you can get a belief or a saying or a quotable stuck in your head long enough, you'll pull it up every time you find yourself in a difficult situation. And thinking about it may give you just enough time to make a better decision, to do the thing that you should do rather than the thing that you shouldn't. With Craig being so new to recovery, he's learning a lot of these phrases right now, which makes me wonder which one is sticking with him. What is he gravitating towards when times get tough?
For me, it's the Serenity Prayer.
Okay, that's a good one.
I found myself approaching anxiety attacks on multiple occasions in these last 205 days, and I'll try the prayer thing. You know, the meditation thing hasn't really worked, but I'll just start literally saying it out loud over and over and over and over again. And eventually these waves of memories from just little tidbits of knowledge from other people that are sober in these AA meetings will start coming into my mind by while I'm repeating the prayer, you know. I'll start remembering all that stuff in the meetings and it'll help me calm down, and then it makes me pick up my phone, and if I really really need that extra help, text somebody, hey, is there a call tonight? Sometimes it's as easy as, I mean, I've done a meeting or two where I'm just not all there, but I'm on the call and I'm just listening in.
I wanted to briefly interject and share with you the Serenity Prayer in case anyone listening is unfamiliar. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
You know, and just to hear somebody go, oh, I'm having a rough day today, here's what I'm dealing with, and you know that you're not alone in it, it's like an immediate weight lifted off the shoulders. Because like you said, everybody needs to clean their side of the street. And I'm sure everybody that has decided to get sober wants that side of their street to be cleaned immediately. Like you want that instant gratification. And that's what the AA fellowship is all about. Like I get instant gratification from something as simple as a meeting. And you know, a lot of people think, well, that must be so difficult during all this stuff to get sober like on Zoom. How are you doing that? But for me, it's that's all I know. I haven't gone to a meeting before all this happened. So this is all I have. And now I get to look forward to when I'm able to talk to people face to face and shake a hand and give a hug and do it in person, you know?
Talking about addiction and creativity is at the core of everything we do, but when we're talking about Escape the Fate, it feels particularly important to focus on the creative process. For more than a decade, the band has been associated with this wild, hard partying lifestyle that doesn't really reflect the members, at least not anymore. So I thought it was important to ask Craig how his creative process has evolved and what, if any, discussion of addiction he's putting into his music.
So I'd say the biggest channeling of it actually happened during the last album when I was still in the grips of my alcoholism, and it culminated into a song called I Am Human. And it's actually the first song the band has ever written where it was just a voice memo in my phone. Like I just sang the song into my phone and sent it to Kevin, and then he wrote the music around it. And we had never written a song that way before. It was always a bunch of music demos, and then I would, you know, listen to them and sing them, or we'd go into the studio, work with a producer on stuff. And this was the first one where, you know, the vocal melody and lyrics came before anything else. And I thought that was crazy. And that was the one that was the most heartfelt. It was just me in a room by myself with a bottle, reflecting on all my entire life and all the issues I had had, and the gratefulness that I had to still be there, but still like feeling the hold of this thing that I needed to overcome. And I poured it into that song. And this last record, or the new one that's coming out called Chemical Warfare, it was actually the first record I've done with the band where I wasn't drinking during the recording process. Like I still hadn't gotten sober yet. I was close to getting to that point enough where I was like, I'm doing another record and I'm so grateful to do another record. Let's not be drinking during the process of this record. Because before I would like, oh, I don't got to be in the studio till noon. Maybe I'll grab some breakfast. That bar's open down the street. I'll get like a drink or two in me and feel good, and maybe I'll sing really good today. And then as soon as I'm done singing, it's like, oh, what's the closest bar near the studio? And it's like, you know, you're drinking from morning till night with a break in between to sing. It's no way to create music. So this was the first one I went in, just grateful to still be able to make music, and I feel like it's one of, if not the best album that we've done so far, in my honest opinion. And then obviously shortly after that, April 8th came around, day before my birthday.
Liquid courage is a phrase used to describe how alcohol can make you less afraid to do things that you're a little apprehensive about. In music, this commonly happens around live performances and how people don't always want to get in front of giant crowds and perform their artwork, but if they have a shot or they drink a couple beers, maybe it'll be a little easier to do. But what you learn in time and with age and in recovery is that you can just do that thing. You have the ability within yourself to be a professional and to perform and to do your job because it's what you're passionate about. You don't need drugs and alcohol to get there.
Yeah, you know, that's something I've told myself in the past. Like I mentioned, I know I said I've done tours sober before. I think I've done one tour where I didn't drink, like in the past 15 years. And now every tour from now on, obviously I'm not going to be drinking, but that was something I needed to tell myself that whole entire tour was like, because that's another issue I have is stage fright. And I'm like, I need to get some liquid courage in me. What am I gonna do? Oh my God, my voice tightens up. I get all clammy. I feel like how I feel when I'm getting ready to get on a plane. Like I can't fly. I'm like, oh God, what's gonna happen? And I just had to tell myself that, like, dude, you would not be here playing shows for the last 7 years or whenever it was when I was doing that sober tour if you were not at least decent at what you were doing. Just get up there and own it. Like, you're good, man. Stop getting into your own head. So I just had to talk myself literally into getting on stage every night.
And now that Craig's sober, his approach to live performances and studio work will likely change, and for good reason.
Smoke and mirrors are gone at that point. You know,
Yeah.
you were mentioning that story of us hanging out earlier, and the actual performance of the show was like a sideshow to it. It was this is fucking awesome. We're drinking, we're hanging out. Oh my God, he puked it. He jumped in the crowd. It was like that story you carry
Yeah.
on. And I feel like that's the smoke and mirrors of it all. Like, so today, now that I'm not drinking and I'm sober, you gotta perform. You know,
You got to put on a real. You got to put on like an
you gotta
actual
put
show.
on a real show now. You can't party your way through the show. I feel like the world's changing too. Maybe that was, when was it ever cool? But maybe that was cool at one point. Like, oh man, we saw them. they were so trash. It was awesome. And it's like, it's just not awesome anymore.
As my time with Craig began to run out, I wanted to make sure that we covered our bases. So I had to ask, when was the last time he had a craving to drink? And when was the last time that he felt truly tempted to do so?
I guess the most honest answer to that would be probably every day. Probably every day. You know, I could sit here and think of a really good answer that's like dressed up in pearls and seems really nice, but no, you just got to be honest, man. The honest answer is every day. Every day the temptation's there. You know, we all go through stuff, and when you've suffered from an addiction like that for so long, you know that, oh, it'll take it away. But it might take it away for a little bit, and then when it comes back, it's going to be 10 times worse.
Oh yeah.
And I'm done with it getting worse. Oh yeah, dude, I went out for steak, and you know, me and my lady would like to just sit up at the bar. The bartender dropped a bottle of wine on the floor, and it shattered, and it was just like all the wine fumes came up. I'm like, oh my God, this steak with a glass of wine would be so amazing. And I was like, nope, stop. No, it wouldn't. This steak is amazing, and you're going to go home and have an amazing night. You're going to get a good night's rest, and you're going to wake up feeling proud that you didn't have a drink today. And that's exactly what I did.
Due to the coronavirus pandemic, Craig has not had much face-to-face interaction with his fans. He's talked to them on Twitch and through other social media platforms, but he hasn't been able to perform, and he certainly hasn't heard as many stories as he usually would. But the day will come when Craig is on the road and somebody tells him that they heard his story, be it through this podcast or another interview, and I'm curious what he'll say to them when they ask for help.
I'm going to tell them get out of their comfort zone and find the nearest AA meeting near them and go, and make sure when they say, do we have anybody joining us today for the first time, you say me and you share. Like, get out of your comfort zone, make that first step, and I promise you that'll set you on a path to a life you never thought you could have in recovery. Like 100%. Like that would be my advice. Like, step out of your comfort zone and go. Like, if you want to bring maybe one friend, if you feel really uncomfortable, go for it. Find your local AA meeting, go, share, introduce yourself. It's the best thing you could do.
All of us at High Notes are wishing Craig the best of luck in his journey to recovery. If you or someone you know is struggling with drugs and alcohol, please reach out. Our entire team is here to help you, as are the people at our partners from Heart Support and the Global Recovery Initiatives Foundation, as well as countless AA and NA programs across the country. Find a meeting, find a community, and tell your story. There are people waiting to help you, and we will cheer you on every step of the way. For High Notes, my name is James Shotwell. The show is brought to you by Holics.com and is produced by Landon Defever. Our programming consultant is Laura Haggard. The music for the show was made by the band You, Me, and Everyone We Know, and the art was created by the great Nick Ferran. You can find High Notes on Instagram and Twitter by searching for High Notes Pod. That's High Notes POD. We have more episodes coming soon, so we hope you'll stick around. And until then, we ask you this. Please, no matter what, take care of yourself, because you deserve it.